Call this meeting to order of the Siloam Springs City Board of Directors. Roll call.
Blair.
Here.
Burns.
Here.
Wiles.
Here.
Hunt. Here. Rissler. Here. Allen.
Here.
Carroll.
Here.
If you will stand with me as we have Director Wiles say the prayer and then continue standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father, as we come before you this evening, we just pray, Father, that you will give us wisdom, clarity, and as we discuss the items before us, Father, that we will keep the interest of all involved at the fore of the discussion. Father, just help us to make the decisions that you would have us to make, the ones that are good and benefit the citizens of this town. Father, we're so grateful for the blessings that you give us each day. Father, we just continue to seek you for good health, good blessings, the weather, everything that you do to make our day good. And Father, help us as we go through each day to be the people you want us to be, the leaders of this town, each citizen. We all have a part to play. And I just pray that you will give us strength and encouragement, help us to seek your will daily. We thank you so much for all you do for us, and especially the salvation we have through your Son, and it is in his name we pray.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you would be sure to turn off or silence your phones or any electronic devices so there's no interruptions during the meeting. Appreciate it. Next agenda item is the open hearing for any citizen who wishes to speak on anything that is not a current agenda item. And if you do, please come forward and state your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes to discuss your topic.
Rebecca Wyatt, 1109 East Jewel Street. I wrote Madam Mayor. Sorry. Mayor and Board of Directors. I have had many people over the last couple of years say to me that they can't come to our city meetings or comment on items before the board because even though they live in this area, work in this area, and shop in this area, they live outside the city limits. And I wanted to clear up this misconception. By the rules of our meetings, you do have to give your name and address, but anyone can speak. Even if you don't have a vote, because you are not inside the city limits, you can have a voice in what matters. If you cannot come here in person and speak, please know how much we appreciate your prayers. Thank you for praying that our town will bless God and that God will bless our town. Thank you, Mayor and Board of Directors.
Thank you, Rebecca. And I will qualify that absolutely anyone is welcome to come and speak. It does not matter where you live. If you're in the state, out of state, in the city limits, outside the city limits, you just are required to give your name and address. And the public comment time is open to anyone. And we welcome comments on city topics or community topics, and we appreciate that reminder, Rebecca. I will also state that it was myself as mayor who instituted the 3-minute limit back in 2010, I believe, because of the overage of time that some people had gone. And she's not here, but it was Mayor Judy, who was a director, and Carol Smiley, who was a director, who came to me before the meeting and said, you've got to do something. So we randomly came up with 3 minutes, and that was when it began. And it was just an informal rule that, and so now we have a timer, and I think we decided that based upon how other cities do their public comment. So it was meant to be for the public commenting. Rarely do we have board members respond, but I've always said if there's something that needs to be responded right then and there, then there's nothing wrong with that either. So thank you, Rebecca. Anyone else? If not, we will move on to our next agenda item. Sorry. For the public comment. Yep. Next is any public comments on the consent agenda. There's an agenda at the front door, and if you have any comments about the consent agenda, now is the time that you can come and speak your piece and give your name and address. Or not, we will move on to the consent agenda, which is the regular meeting minutes of June 17th and the workshop meeting minutes on the Headworks Wastewater for also June 17th. Do I have any comments or questions about the consent agenda from the board? All right. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Burns,
Yes.
Wiles,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler. Yes. Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Burns.
Yes. Motion passed. Our next agenda item is the staff reports, the annual planning commission report. And Ben, all right.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Ben Rhodes, a senior planner. Before you is this the annual Planning Commission report. This is a code requirement that we present the report once a year to the Board of Directors on the activity of the Planning Commission. As you see in the report there, the levels of permits are roughly about the same as they were last year. I would note that if you discount the special use permits that we had previously, we would actually be higher. But because we're not doing the short-term rental special uses anymore, that kind of cut down the number from the previous year. With the Unified Development Code change, we are proposing to move when we report this to January each year, so it would be for the previous calendar year rather than mid-year to mid-year. So that's something we're considering, but we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Is there any comments from the board? Questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes?
I do have a question for Ben. The last bullet point is one plan amendment. Do you recall what that plan amendment was?
I believe that was the Master Street Plan when we amended it for the sidewalks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else? We do not need a vote on that, I don't believe. Christina? I think that's just a staff report, so, all
Correct.
right. Our next agenda item is our ordinances. Ordinance 2518, amending section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from A1 to R3 at 400 block of Meadow Court. Is there any discussion from the board on that? And you want to brief it?
Yeah, just real quick, just as a reminder, Ben Rhodes, Senior Planner, this is just the third reading, rezoning to R3, the property out there on Meadow Court. So we have not received any additional comments since the second reading. We're available for any questions. Thank you.
Any comments from the board, questions? Any comments or questions from the public? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the third reading for ordinance 2518.
So moved.
Second.
Is there there's a second, moved and seconded. Ordinance 2518, the third reading. Roll call.
Wiles,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Burns.
Yes. Motion passed. I will entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 2518.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes. Motion passed. I should have had you read it, didn't I? My apologies. You want to go ahead and read it now, Christina?
Sure. Ordinance number 25-18, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, city zoning map, rezoning from A1 to R3, property located at the 400 block of Meadow Court, and amending the future land future land use map of the Siloam Springs 2040 comprehensive plan.
All right, our next agenda item is ordinance 2519. We have the second reading on the naming of the Siloam Springs Memorial Park. Chris, do you wish to brief us on that?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. The ordinance as presented at the first reading has not changed. We haven't had any additional public input, but I would stand for any additional questions.
You said there's no change in the...
No
but there's-
change.
Okay. Is there any questions or comments from the board?
Vice Mayor.
Yes.
Hey, Chris, so one thing I noticed during our celebration of this city is that Memorial Park is etched in stone off Jefferson and Mount Olive as we enter in, which doesn't mean anything to me that it stays there. But as we rename that, just keep that in mind, because I feel like somebody in the community will say something. So I was the first for you, my friend. You're probably aware of it, so.
Thank you.
It doesn't change the naming of it, so I'll just give you
Absolutely.
a heads up. Thank you.
Just on that note, Mr. Mayor, the Twin Springs Memorial Park, that for those that may be seeing this for the first time, that is still being preserved on the area that you can see here that will still be referred to as Twin Springs Memorial Park. That includes the area with the heading. I think that the plaque that is talking about is about in this area somewhere.
Well, I think Brad was talking about at the corner of Jefferson and Mount Olive, there's the big
Yes.
stone sign, right? That
think it's right
it only says Memorial Park. And it would be a little hard to move that.
It would be.
But as you said, I feel the same way, that there's nothing wrong with it as is. I think we have a valid reason for putting the, etching everything into the limit of boundaries on this thing, Chris, and I appreciate you bringing it to us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Any further comments from the board? Questions? Is there any comments or questions from the public? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 2519.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Wiles,
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-19, an ordinance naming the parks located at 205 East Jefferson Street and establishing boundaries, properties, and hours of operation therein.
Thank you, Christina. Our next agenda item is the ordinance 2520, the second reading of a vacation of a utility easement at the 311 North Simon Sager Avenue address. Ben, do you wish to tell us about that?
Yes, certainly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ben Rhodes, Senior Planner. Yes, this is the second reading, again, at 311 North Simon Sager Avenue. The issue is they're moving the property line, as you recall, and so that didn't move the easement, so we have to close the easement and then reestablish it to the north through a lot line adjustment. And we have not received any comments since last time, and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Any comments or questions from the board? Any questions or comments from the public? Don't have a motion yet. I will entertain a motion on the second reading of ordinance 2520. I don't have a motion yet. do I?
moved.
No.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion from the board? Roll call.
Allen?
Yes.
Carroll?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Burns?
Yes.
Wiles?
Yes.
Hunt?
Yes.
Rissler?
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-20, an ordinance vacating and abandoning utility easements at 311 North Simon Sager Avenue.
Next agenda item is letter G, ordinance 2522, the second reading, amending section 102-21 of the city municipal code, rezoning from PD to I-1, the 500 block of North Progress. Megan is going to brief us.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Megan Thomas, current planner. This is the second reading of a rezoning request located at the 500 block of North Progress Avenue. As a reminder, the applicant is requesting to rezone the southern portion of Lot 1 of the reserve subdivision consisting of 11.1 acres from PD planned development to I-1 industrial. The applicant is also requesting to amend the future land use designation for the southern portion of the property from mixed-use centers to industrial to allow for the proposed heavy industrial use. Since the previous reading, staff has received 2 additional letters in opposition to this request. Both letters received did come from the property owners who previously provided opposition letters on the first reading, and staff is available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Any comments or questions from the board?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Lisa.
I have a
Director
couple of
Rissler. Sorry,
questions.
Director Rissler.
I have a couple of questions.
Right.
Dawn, do you mind? I assume you'd be the one to answer the questions, so I'm going to call you, sorry. When you said that you contacted everybody in your subdivision, can you tell me how you did that?
Don Clark, 2135 Montclair Avenue, serving as the owner's rep on this project. So it was through our POA Facebook page. We put out a notice that we were going to have a meeting to discuss a project that was close to our subdivision.
You know about how many attended that meeting?
20 to 22 people, maybe.
So I've had some questions. I contacted some companies that are similar to what you want to offer because I know a couple of people that work at these companies. And so I contacted a local owner that owns one. And I had some questions because I got a lot of people that came to me and said there's a problem with odor. And I thought, well, they're just washing eggs, you know, where could the odor come from? So there are some questions that have come from that. When you wash your eggs, what happens to that water? Or do you have to contain it and haul it off? What happens to the
water? So, yeah, I'll let Ashley
Okay.
answer that particular question.
Hi, Ashley Swaffer. I'm the VP of Compliance for Hanson Brook Farms, and I'm from Farmington. So what you do is it only has chlorine added to it, so it generally can go back into the sewer system. There's no treatment or anything like that on that water. Because we have screens in there that screens.
So the waste that comes off the eggs, it's almost like sewer, so I could see it going, but there's generally a chemical, and you're saying only chlorine goes
Yeah.
into it.
It's only chlorine. There's a defoamer that acts in there, but it's in a very minute amount. But when you wash eggs, so like, I don't know if anybody's been in a chicken house. So our birds lay eggs and nest, and we have very clean eggs. So you're not there's not a lot of manure.
There's still a protective layer on them that you guys, once you wash them, it washes off that protective layer.
It's a bloom,
science
is
of it,
what
yes.
that's called, yeah. And it's very unnoticeable to the human eye, but there's not a lot of feces or anything that we're washing off of the eggs or anything like that.
Okay. And what happens, like, when you have a lot of trucks, and this is a big issue in some of these places, you have your forklifts that are loading palletfuls of eggs. Once those eggs fall, and you can't use them, of course, because they're cracked and all over the ground, what happens? What's your cleanup process?
Like on the ground, Inside the plant?
Whether it's inside or outside, no matter where you unload or load or unload, it doesn't matter where it's at. What
Eggs-
is your process for?
Very few eggs would ever fall off of a pallet, like a whole pallet would fall over. That would be catastrophic in a plant. But those are used in like, a lot of places will have, I know when I worked at a different facility in Summers, we had, they called blue barrels and they went for dog food. So you denature them and they're still used in a usable setting. So you don't have to go to landfill or anything like that. So
So do you unload directly into the freezer
cooler, yes.
cooler? And
Yep.
do you unload directly from the freezer?
Cooler, yes.
And
Yes.
so, there's no exposure to heat?
No, because that's really a food safety issue with eggs because they'll sweat. And that's when you breed pathogens and stuff. So,
Or processed eggs?
yep. So eggs will go directly, they come from the farm out of a cooler. There's federal regulations on that. So they come in refrigerated and they're unloaded directly into the cooler. Our process flow will take them out to the processing floor and then come back into a finished cooler and then get loaded straight from there.
And so how do you control the odor from washing the eggs?
There's really not an odor. I don't think there's an odor.
So do you think you're used to it, or because all these other places that are regional said that there's an
You
like
talk to an
sulfur, yes, processing plants?
egg processing plant. Yeah, I don't think there's that much of an odor. It definitely wouldn't smell it outside. There might be in the floor if you like, what some of the older plants, you get a lot more because of the candling lights and things like that, but new plants, I don't think there's an odor at all.
Okay, that's my question. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any other board members?
Vice Mayor.
Yes.
I know I got harassed because I rambled on last time, and so to entertain Director Hunt and Director Rissler, I have not had caffeine lately. But I just, I did a little bit of research on GIS and some county records on land sales and how long this land has sat. I was on the board last time when the last project fell through. Loved that project. It fell through. And then after attending AML, we had a summer meeting down in Little Rock, and we discussed, change and the change in land use maps that are occurring in our UDC code. It's going to show up later this evening. And our resiliency as a town to manage that change. And then I went back a little bit further, and I mentioned a little bit before, but I got into opportunity zones. Opportunity zones appeared when President Trump was last elected, right? So if you go down to 2019, but if you look at 2020 of August, the White House Council of Economics Advisors issued this, the impact of opportunity zones, an initial assessment report. And so highlights were 500,000 jobs created, 1 million people out of poverty by those jobs created, and $78 billion in investments. And then in 2025, President Trump, now back in office, is extending and renewing the Opportunity Zone incentives. And I understand the change. I understand staff. As I spoke before, I sat and listened to P&Z struggle with this decision, and several of them wanted to table it for further discussion, but that wasn't an option, and that's why it's on our plate. It's for us to make that decision. And down to Little Rock, leadership is election. We're in that role of leadership. And what are we going to do with the city moving forward? Are we going to change? Are we going to be stuck in that pattern? So my previous life as a structural firefighter, as a wildland firefighter, plans are dynamic and fluid, and if you don't change with the plans, it's a really bad day. Things are changing. You have to evolve with that change. And so I just really encourage us to consider it's happening statewide. This is an opportunity. It is change. They've met most of our requirements, our whereas clause. And I know we can't make everybody happy, but I feel really driven is why I'm speaking more than I normally do, because we are in a time period in Siloam where we are absorbing costs, our infrastructure is being dynamically impacted, and what we are creating is urban sprawl, and we're not creating jobs, and that concerns me. Thank you.
Anyone else? Board member?
Mr. Vice Mayor,
Yes.
concerning this, this issue, I've taken a look at it. I've read the emails, had conversations with individuals. And in looking at this, I have seen where this can be or is a plus for our community. And I will say that I am for taking it through this second reading, getting it to the third one. And in looking at the impact that it's going to make, looking at the land where it sits, I think many are going to be hard-pressed to even know it's there. Not that they're trying to hide, but when you have a detention pond to your south, a detention pond to most of your west, and you have a cemetery across the street, and a good amount of trees with you there. I think the borders and barriers are set in place to where this can be a functioning part of the community with a pay scale that's going to be set to where someone can make a living. And to have the opportunity to do that and to work with neighbors, work with others around, I feel like it fits well. I like the approach that the company has stated they're taking, where they not only want to be here and represent who they are, but they want to be a part of the community. They want to interact with we as citizens. So it goes beyond just the eggs or just the chickens. And I know we're all well versed in chickens. If you're not, just live here a few more years and you'll get there. But I do see a good positive with this. And for me, the hardest part was to get personality out of this and just look at it. Where does this stand for our community, for our people, and for the city of Siloam Springs in the direction that we are wanting to go, but as Director Burns has stated, we need to go. I think our future looks good, but I think this could be a part of that and be a positive asset. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yes, Mindy.
So first, Director Burns, you can talk as much as you want to. You've got the floor anytime. We always enjoy hearing from you. Oh, are you going to time me right now? Okay, go ahead. That's fair. So because the decisions or non-decisions maybe that were made by the Planning Commission, I mean, there was a decision made, but because that was brought up and it seemed like there was kind of some confusion around it, I wanted to view the Planning Commission meeting. And so I did view that today. And I know we've got more to hear, and hopefully we can pass this on to the next reading so we can continue to hear more information. But in watching the Planning Commission meeting, my impression was that they were very torn on this decision. It is a difficult decision for them. It's a difficult decision for us. They didn't want to table. They wanted to table, but they didn't want to table because of the timeline, and it just wasn't going to work with the timeline. They also weren't comfortable with just outright approving the request, and in my opinion, what I gathered from them, it was because of concerns like that it doesn't fit into the future land use plan that was agreed upon by various members of the community. When we developed the 2040 comprehensive plan a couple of years ago, that it was zoned, another reason it was zoned plan development. At the time, the person who purchased the land for the apartments to the east purchased it. And so when he purchased those apartments, he thought he was purchasing next to PD as opposed to next to industrial. I get that argument. Also, there was the concern that while this particular project may be very worthwhile and not a nuisance to the community, that the next one, if it doesn't work out, the next industrial project that comes in could be more of a problem. With that said, at least one commissioner did express that he really wanted this board to review the request because of the potential positive economic impact on the community. And at least two did mention that this was just a great opportunity for more jobs in the area. So it really was a struggle. They weren't comfortable saying yes, they weren't comfortable saying no. They really wanted us to hear it. But they did have valid concerns. So it seemed like they just weren't able to make a decision based on what they had. But like I say, tabling wasn't really an option. Because one of the commissioners did bring up the comprehensive plan and that the future land use map that was part of that comprehensive plan was not what this fits into, I went back to our plan and I just highlighted a few sections that I feel like sort of apply to this issue. On page 6, or 26 on our plan, it says that the future land use map differs from the city's zoning map, which enforces regulations by zoning district. However, the future land use map does help guide and inform zoning decisions. Guide and inform, not regulate. Obviously, we want to use it for guiding and informing, but it doesn't necessarily regulate it. Goes on to say that the future land use plan will not be the end point of discussions, but rather an additional element considered along with other more site, area, person, and business-specific issues, which implies to me that there may be room to modify it at some point. On page 39 of our plan, where we talk about land use. Industrial is described as an area located along arterial thoroughfares in proximity to freeways, rail lines, and areas with access to airports and other transportation outlets, which that particular area is near all those things. Industrial areas should be buffered from any adjacent residential uses through separation by a roadway, a transitional use, office, et cetera, or substantial screening efforts, which I believe we would have some pretty significant screening requirements. And then under economic development, this comprehensive initiative addresses land use, but also integrates economic development and market-oriented opportunities. Ultimately, this plan creates a path to expand economic conditions and opportunities for Siloam Springs and the greater region. So it lays out a future land use plan, but there's more to it. And I think what that means is there could have to be give and take in some areas. As much as I do understand the concerns expressed with the project, I also feel like it is a good opportunity to really do what our plan does encourage for the future, which is to expand economic conditions and opportunities, obviously those being job opportunities, but also just economic development. I love the idea of the planned development senior housing. Unfortunately, that's a no-go. I do understand that the future land plan designated this area. That's another thing. So I think the future land use plan designated this area as mixed use, right? Which, that's another definition I have, which according to our definition of mixed use, it refers to a combination of uses, typically retail, office, and or residential within a single development. If you Google mixed use, you can find that industrial can be part of a mixed use plan. Whether that's what we want or not, now that's what Google's not the authority, but sometimes industrial apparently can fit into mixed use. Whether that's what we want or not, that's something that we have to decide. I do appreciate what the Allen family has done for our community. Do appreciate the concerns that have been expressed. Want to hear more. In my opinion, at this point, the industrial, with what this plan is and with the whereas clause we've got and some of the requirements we're going to have for it, isn't a huge stretch for that location. So that's sort of where I am right now. Just wanted to express that.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Lisa?
Chris, we just had a discussion on mixed use today. Can you define the mixed use for Siloam Springs?
So typically when we talk about mixed use, you have a single development that has multiple uses. So you would take a combination from different zoning districts, and you would have some sort of each, for example, a commercial or residential use in one development. Yes, there is instances in the generalized discussion of mixed use where industrial could be incorporated in that. Usually it comes in like small manufacturing would be incorporated into a mixed use type of a development. But mixed use in general, speaking of that in general versus speaking about what it is defined in our code, it's more, in our code, it more specifically talks about residential, commercial type of a mixed-use development.
Industrial.
And that is what
'Cause that's-
ours says.
Yeah,
I'm just
ours
saying,
is
in
specific.
general, it
Yeah.
has been, the definition has been expanded to include.
So I love that this is an opportunity to bring jobs to Siloam Springs because we need more jobs. But I support staff on this decision. The opportunity zones are usually defined in an area that's industrial. The opportunity zones that we have in our area is just a big square on a map. It's not defined in the industrial area where you have railroad cars and other places that you would generally put a opportunity zone. And so I understand this is within the opportunity zone, and there was discussion that maybe there's gonna have to be some discussion at the federal level to fix some of these things, that we can make adjustments, because the opportunity zone in our area doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily places that we can grow or will grow, or the opportunity isn't there. It's more in your industrial area. But I do appreciate that the jobs are coming. But my only hangup, even with the clause and everything else, my only hangup is protecting our citizens in the future. And so we have to protect now, and I guess it hits home a little more when you have an 8-year-old child. This is gonna be her community. And so putting an industrial in the middle of a commercial and residential, it's my job not only to make sure we protect the citizens with the Constitution, not just of the United States, but Arkansas Constitution, that we protect people's rights, but we have to protect their future too. And I think that when we're wishy-washy on where we put our zonings and where we place our businesses and the types of businesses, it's a risk at our community and a risk I'm not willing to take.
Lisa, anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Betsy?
and I'm not sure, I received an email from Mr. Stoner, so I don't know who would address this, whether Dawn or the engineer or who it would be. He talks about in this email sometime during the late July, August meetings, bringing back the zoning to change it to light industrial with a variance. Can you speak on that?
Yes, ma'am. We actually turned that application in today for the first submittal cycle. And so I'll just take this time to address a few things and elaborate on that a little bit. So again, not to belabor some of the things that were already spoke about, we we heard you. We heard the concerns, and a lot of the concerns was if we zoned it I1 and you guys went away, what could it be? So to further our commitment, we're approaching it and rezoning it I2 with the requested variances that was spoke about at the last meeting. So we listened carefully to your feedback from the board, from the staff, and from the public. So again, our intent is low impact, local contribution. So this is not a farm. Again, it's been spoke about. It's an ag grading facility. There's no animals kept on site. No industrial discharge that requires pretreatment. We're building a light industrial facility that will bring good paying jobs to the community. So under I2, as it was discussed last time, one of the requirements of the code that says that the impacts of the I2 development has to be equal to what is allowed in C2. So I want to address that as well.
Don, I've not opened it up to public
Okay.
comments yet. If you can address what she's asked and what she's asked
So
only right
I2
now.
is what we're pursuing currently. Again, from the timing of this project and the machines being ordered and they have to be on the ground, what the I1 would allow us to start doing is the grading and start the project. And then, as it moves through your system, it goes to the Board of Adjusters, and then it come to the board to rule on that I2 zoning.
Okay, so I assume, so staff, you all have gotten this request?
Yes, today I received their rezoning request for the I2 as well as their 2 variances for the driveway width and the building height, and then their lot split as well.
Okay. I know you've just received it. What are the chances that you'll approve it or recommend it? Or can you even say at this point?
We can't comment on that at this point. We have to review those variances, would likely have to go to the Board of Adjustment, and the Board of Adjustment would have to make that determination on supporting the variances.
Okay, so there's no guarantee at this point?
That is correct. We have received the application. We haven't had a chance to do a review, and I have not seen the variance applications, so I'm not sure what specifically was requested other than it was submitted. We can verify that.
Okay. How about potential for smell was mentioned, and I assume with I2, it's going to be stricter as far as what's allowed, as far as odors.
Sure. Smell is typically an air quality issue. Air quality issue is through DEQ through the state and not typically mitigated through the city.
Okay. So then if it did end up smelling, we couldn't do anything about it? We'd have to rely on ADEQ?
I wouldn't say we couldn't do anything about it. We would have to review our ordinance to see if it meets any of our noxious ordinance. But typically, if it's air quality, it could be a twofold. I would have to determine if that does meet any of our code restrictions or code enforcement actions for those noxious odors or any sort of noxious emissions. But typically, any type of large-scale smell issue would be relative to DEQ action. We would have to report that to the state, and I would deflect any additional questions relative to that to our legal team.
Okay. If it's I2, how bad can smell be for an I2? Like, I don't know what I2 is versus, yeah. I didn't know if either one's fine.
If you have the answer.
Sure, I can.
Can't you answer if it's the answer?
Ryan Gill, civil engineer for the project.
You need to state your name and address, sir.
4516 West Woolridge Way, Rogers, Arkansas. I had to think about that. To something you had asked earlier and also to the issue of the smell. So the way that the building is set up, the truck docks and everything else. So the eggs come in from the farms on a refrigerated truck, enclosed. So following everything else, if they do, they spill actually in the truck or whatever else. But they are refrigerated there. They back up to the doors into the into the cooler. They're unloaded in the cooler. So again, it's a cooler, so it's a sealed connection there as well. Trucks from the other side of the building come in, refrigerated trucks, back up to a sealed connection. So there's very I can't imagine at any point where it's exposed or anything else to address the possible breakage spills out into the truck areas or anything like that, which would, in most cases, a whole level of falls over and stinks, like we all know rotten eggs do. That won't happen. So, I mean, as far as just trying to address the smell and how that connection works. So that,
Do you have an egg washing plant like this somewhere else?
tag you're in.
Yeah, so currently Hanson Brook is building a plant in Brooks, Kentucky, is under construction, and then hopefully here, and then one in Pennsylvania, but we do not operate one. We work with partner facilities, so we grade our eggs currently at a plant in Summers. I worked there previously for 8 years, so have lots of egg grading experience as well, so.
Summers, Arkansas.
Yes, Summers, Arkansas, sorry.
Okay, so this is your first venture with egg washing yourselves?
For Hanson Brook, yes, because we've always done like co-packers. We've worked with co-packers before, so.
Yeah, thank you.
Vice Mayor? Yes. Just to further, so risk-benefit analysis, I understand it. I'm going to give an example. I've lived in the heart of Siloam. I call it the heart. It's an old area. Tahlequah Street used to be the Buzz Street, and so I've been there 20 years. And just visually, I spoke of this before, outside of my house to the east is the Simmons facility, and I've watched it transition over the years. And we had on the last expansion, or the previous expansion when I was on the board, and that was Ward 2 back then, we had a odor issue. It creeped through all of downtown, if we recall. And, Simmons was very defensive. I was concerned because it's in my walking area, and it was brutal. And so come to find out, we had a pump station that had failed and gone down. And so we did some investigation, some partnership, and we got that squared away. Having said that, we just approved an expansion on that facility. I know that particular company spends a lot of time in research trying to reduce odor. And having said that, on occasion, outside of my house, my dog does snap at the air. There's a little dog treat odor in the air. I'm just going to be honest with you. And, but I don't live on the edge of the city. Trucks go by. They use GPS now. If you've never been to Siloam, it's going to send you down Tahlequah Street. And they go down that little narrow bridge. And you can see them on their GPS going, I don't know what's happening. And so it's a struggle. I feel us here having this conversation of trying to justify no when we've already said so many yeses. So, and the whereas clause, and then once again, continuing to meet the conditions and our concerns. Having lived in this area for a long time now, I just encourage us to take it to the third reading and do further investigation. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Yes.
And I appreciate that, Brad. Last time I said I had concerns, I still have concerns. I have had some answered. I now have a few more questions after hearing some things tonight. I appreciate all the comments. But like Brad, like Reed, I will be glad to send this to the third reading, just to give us a little more time to do our due diligence. But I guess I just wanted to state I still have some concerns, and I still will be asking a few questions. But I do appreciate everything that everybody has been pointing out, and I know we still have some public comment, and I'm anxious to hear that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Anyone else? Board comments? Reed, did you say something already? Have you?
I didn't speak earlier.
The only board member who hadn't spoke is me, and so I'm now going to recognize myself. I watched the last meeting that I was unable to attend, and I'm going to refer to some things that were said in that meeting. Naming historic locations of industries around town that are labor intensive. When we speak of these things, we don't always know what we're talking about. The city grew up around these plants. The pet food plant was a chicken plant, and it has been added on to the Gates facility had residential buildup around it. Well, I can tell you, there was nothing there when Gates built that plant. I've lived here all my life. I've been involved in the industry and have been involved in the city involvement in those industries. It was said that Allen's built a facility by the railroad tracks. Wrong. That was Robinson Canning Company built that plant in the 1940s when there was nothing there. Allen Canning bought it later. The Kenwood warehouse was built where there was nothing, and it was not a very labor-intensive or smelly facility. It's a big, giant, open building for storing canned goods. The comment that our previous administrator, David Cameron, made a bunch of promises about Simon Sager Avenue. I was mayor when that came up. And it was said Patterson inherited those problems. That was wrong. That was not designed for any other reason except to allow ambulances to get quickly to the hospital from 412. It was discussed very long and thoroughly by this board in the mid-2000s about the problem of going out to Progress or going all the way to Highway 59 to get to the brand new hospital that was built and opened when I was mayor. So this was long in development. It was talked about the cell tower that was approved for threat of a federal lawsuit. Yep, I was on the board when that came up. And I was not in favor of it because of the eyesore of being right next to a urgent care clinic. Doesn't have anything to do with this. But when you look at our history, as it was said, look at our history and how we worked with industry. I know the industrial history. The economic development that has been going on for several years, it's not been because of the city, it's been because of the chamberhead, Arthur Holbert, which we sadly will be losing because he's retiring. Previous chamberhead didn't bring any industry. It's been talked about how many jobs will be brought by this chicken or this egg plant, how many high-paying jobs, and that number seems to fluctuate. I was very impressed with the presentation that Mr. Clark met with me. I thought it sounded great, it looks great. And we keep hearing that this must go here because this is in an opportunity zone. When I heard that, I got to tell you, I didn't know where an opportunity zone was. I didn't know if that was the only place that we had an opportunity zone. I didn't know anything about it. And thanks to Director Lisa Rissler asking for public input on her Siloam Springs citizen page, that she often asks for input from the citizens who voted us all to be here. She got a lot of comments. And what was posted there was something I didn't know. This is the opportunity zone in Siloam Springs. And it's several miles. It looks like it goes out to Highway 59. It goes to the north of the city limits out near Web Wheel and Lazy Boy. It goes east and west, and to be told regarding this project that we must go here because this is an opportunity zone. The reason that it must go here is because the company that bought the property was unable to do what they decided to do for whatever reason. They didn't have the ability to do it. And I think everyone was pleased, excited, senior housing, all these different types of housing. Brad said he wanted to build a house there or buy a house there. It fell through. Nobody's fault here that we had anything to do with it. But obviously, the owner wants to sell. And whether it's a fire sale on the property or not, that is the reason this specific place has been chosen. So if we're going to talk about jobs, right now it's vapor. There's proposed jobs, and I've heard that number go up and down. I mean, in the last board meeting, it was talked about 100 jobs. Well, when it was proposed to me, it was 60 jobs. So, and I'm not here to support Mr. Doug Allen, but I can tell you, he has brought a lot of jobs to Siloam Springs. And if you allotted all of the companies that he's brought to Siloam, I can assure you they far surpass the number and pay that is being proposed with this industry. I was in favor of this project until I started talking to people and looked at the master plan, the 2040 comprehensive plan. Has anybody looked at that? There is nothing marking industry in this facility, and I appreciate you bringing that up, Mindy, because you brought up some really key points just a moment ago. A lot of money was spent on that comprehensive plan. I do not believe industry, any, I-2, I-1, whatever, be I-5 for all I consider, should not be that close to two, what our planning staff have called now, institution. School, high school, and hospital. Because of the traffic of big trucks, and everybody says, oh, all the trucks from Walmart are coming through 412. From the east or west, coming on 412 and turning. There are going to be some big trucks, and if you have housing built to the east of this, it's a great idea to be able to have housing built that people can work there and walk over to their job and all that. But I can tell you, I've lived near chicken houses. I live currently not far from the sewer plant. And occasionally, you can't help but have an odor. It's nothing that is always constant, but it is something you don't really enjoy, to go out and want to enjoy your backyard and smell that. To hear that we've also been a community that said no to Sam Walton, so we do have that history. No, that was not our city that turned down Sam Walton. It was a building owner downtown that did not agree to sell his building. Had nothing to do with the city of Siloam Springs. I think it is hard to speak, as has been done in the last meeting, for the planning committee, the planning commission. Well, this is what the planning commission wanted to do. I mean, are we now assuming what they wanted to do? I think they also, as Mindy said, probably are asking, what does the comprehensive plan say? What does the future land use map say? Reed said no odor, no noise. I don't think you know that unless you've actually gone to a plant that does the very same thing as this proposed facility. Has anybody done that? Has anybody asked? Tonight we heard it's in Summers, it's the closest. But I've not heard anybody say, should we not go check out a comparable facility before we plunk down an industry right in the middle of residential and commercial and right next to two huge institution zones? When I was mayor, we had the opportunity for $1 million to buy the Franklin Electric building. And we were working as a city to bring in jobs to a door manufacturer from up north. And they liked Siloam Springs because how many churches we had, believe it or not. And every city that they were meeting with, that was a requirement. And it was down to us and Rogers and a couple towns in Texas. And David, Cameron, and I had a plan on how to tour them through that building, and it was all messed up by the Chamber of Commerce. They ended up going to Texas. But there has been opportunity and plans to look at industry. Sadly, we have lost jobs. It does not mean the need for jobs that we must approve the first opportunity that comes up that wants to put an industry in an industrial zone and change the zoning for industry, which, as has been said, could change to something else if this company doesn't last, if they build it and it doesn't work out. There could be a completely different industry buy their building and put something very stinky, and we have no control over it. Now, we can do all these whereas. Folks, when it's built, it's built. When the zone is changed, it's changed, and it's very hard to go backwards. I do not believe personally that industry should be in this area. And I most certainly cannot support a second and third reading tonight when any issue of this magnitude is designed with 3 readings to allow as much public input as possible. And to be asked to do that, along with letters and emails saying, you know, if you don't do this, we're going to go to Springfield. If you look at the amount of comments on Director Rissler's citizens page, there's not a single citizen supporting this project. And the majority of them said, if they're threatening to go to Springfield, then let them. Because we should not be held over a barrel just to get some industrial jobs. High-paying jobs are high-paying jobs, whether they're sorting eggs or whether they're helping you as a manager at Wendy's. I mean, we have so many new healthcare workers, thanks to the urgent care clinics, to the hospital. We have so many new teachers, thanks to the high school and the proposed future school coming. These are good paying jobs, and it doesn't have to be a food-related or anything else. I appreciate Director Rissler saying that our job, at least in her mind, and my mind too, is to protect the citizens of Siloam Springs. Whether that is protecting them from future odor or noise or just the future of our city staying viable. This industry is not going to make or break Siloam Springs, I can assure you. When I was young, we had something called enterprise zones set up by the state, the federal government. We had industrial parks that were set up by the city. That was the thing back in the 70s. This opportunity zone, I think most of us are pretty green on it. It's a big red square, but we're pretty green on it, on what it means. But I heard the stress and pressure that we have to go with this piece because of it being an opportunity zone and what the federal government will provide us. There is an awful lot of empty land that has access to utilities in that big red square that is not near housing or lots of commercial. I remember I was on this board when our previous administrator brought to us a $1.5 million incentive to put in TJ Maxx and 2 other stores. Pretty well was told to us that if you want this, if you want us to bring these in and all the tax revenue, then you must give us this $1.5 million. Once again, I'll tell you, I'm not here to back up or support or defend or anything for Mr. Allen, but he's never asked for incentives. Yes, he brought up the fact that there were memos about Simon Sager because that was dedicated by him for that road. And that road was decided long ago to be built for the citizens' protection if there was wrecks on the highway. That's a fact. And the way these are known by me, because I've lived it. I've been here, I've been on the board, and I've experienced these things. So I believe voting this through to the 3rd reading is appropriate, and I'm in favor of that. But unless there's something completely changed, I will not be supporting a 3rd reading. That's all I have to say right now. Anybody else?
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yes.
I just want to say thank you for voicing that because people were concerned that we are agreeing too much. So now I just thank you that we totally disagree on this particular thing, and I just want that clarified out there, and I think it's the right thing to say. You should state your opinion and your experience. I think it's a fabulous thing. It's called freedom of speech. I don't listen to What's Up Siloam. I do support the 2nd and 3rd reading, and I totally respect everybody's opinion that's stated tonight, and I look forward to public opinion. Thank you.
Well, I will say, Director Burns, that some of the comments you say about I've replaced Director Allen here with a long sermon, that can fall right into attacking a board member, which is against our board rules, and I would appreciate not saying things like that. Thank you. Anyone else? If not, I will open it up to public comment. Does anyone have anything to say? Come and state your name and address.
Doug Allen, excuse me, Doug Allen, 8007, West Ellsworth, Rogers, Arkansas. Mr. Vice Mayor, City Board, I have a few questions that I'd like to ask, if that's okay. Which of the city board members has toured a Hanson Brook Farms facility? Which of the city staff has toured a Hanson Brook Farms facility? Anybody? Anybody? Okay, so we're taking this company at their word. You all do not know it doesn't smell. You all do not know about noise, and you all don't know about truck traffic or lights. I hope that this board is fully aware of what spot zoning is. Spot zoning, Arkansas law frowns upon, and it states that it's invalid when it primarily serves the private interest of an affected property owner rather than being related to the community's overall plan. The potential negative effects on neighboring properties, such as decreased property values or increased noise, are important factors in evaluating the legality of spot zoning. I really think this board needs to take a hard look at the law before they make a decision on this. I'd urge you to turn down this zoning to industrial. My last question is, Megan, how far is it to the closest industrial zone to this piece of property?
I'm sorry, that will have to be addressed to the mayor.
Yeah, you have to ask me and I'll ask her.
Mr. Vice Mayor, how far is it from this property to the closest industrial zone?
You're saying to such as Lazy Boy or any big
No.
industry to this?
Whatever y'all considered industrial zoning.
Megan, do you have that on a map?
I'm measuring it right now, just 1 second.
Would it be Cobb or would it be to the north?
About 2,400 feet to the
Would it-
cell barn. That's what I was measuring to, was to the cell barn on Highway 412 is the closest industrial.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Don Clark, 2135 Montclair Avenue. Thank you, Mayor Board. So I'll address a few things, and I'll also offer, if you would like to tour a facility, the closest one that's like in kind would be in Berryville, and we can arrange that. Ashley is spoke up, and she can do that. So we'll see how this turns out, and we'll offer that to you. So I want to address concern of spot zoning. This is not isolated. It's within the blend of zoning types. As I pointed out the last time, A1, C2, R3, R4, GI is all surrounding this area. Excuse me. I know there's been some concern about light pollution, so I want to address that while I'm here too, in my 3 minutes. So section 6641 of the Siloam Springs Nuisance Code and section 10276 covers parking lot standards that require full shut-off lights and a photometric plan with a certain amount of foot candles. That is already in your code, and that's something we would have to adhere to. What I was going to state earlier is related to I-2. The code states that it can be no more intense than what's allowed in C2. So just to give some comparisons, Walmart sits on a 23-acre tract with a 183,000 square foot building, hundreds of parking spots. Lowe's similarly operates within a 15-acre footprint, 110,000 square foot building, large parking lot. Both are welcome and value members of this community. They feel sales tax leakage and bring volume. We appreciate Mr. Allen and his development of those things. But they also, in our opinion, have a larger physical and traffic footprint than what we're imposing because, again, they're open to the public. Traffic to and from this location will be shift changes and truck traffic. A couple other things I wanted to point out as well. This piece of property is in the opportunity zone, and what we stated the last time, and I apologize if it got misconstrued, this is the only shovel-ready that we know of with the utilities and the streets to it. Stevens Road is a gravel road. The sewer infrastructure is somewhere near. I'm not sure how far. There's no roads built to it at this current time. And so to address our timeline, again, we want to be in Siloam Springs if this board allows. But the timing of the project, because of what Mr. Stoner spoke about in the ordering of those machines, they hit the ground in February. So the timing is an issue for us and is for this project for that reason. They have to have somewhere to go. So when it was at the Planning Commission meeting and they wanted to table, that's what we spoke about. Time just didn't allow for it. It was their pleasure if they wanted to table, but we just wanted to make sure you understand that, you know, it wouldn't be anything to table because if they tabled it, we would just have to pull the application at that time. We want to be a community partner. I understand the concerns about residential. I live 1,000 yards from this. If it was going to emit smell or any of those things, I wouldn't be for this project. If I didn't feel like it would be good for Siloam Springs, I wouldn't be supportive of this project. We appreciate the passion. We appreciate the job that you have to do. We know it's difficult, but as it's been stated before, that's what you're elected to do, to make these decisions. And so we just put our information out there. I'm here to answer any further questions that you may have. Appreciate your time.
Mr. Mayor?
And Don, I will tell you, I really appreciate your sincerity, your upfront ability to explain. We had a great meeting, and I really wish you the best. I think that you have been very helpful to make us aware of the opportunity. So thank you. I want to tell you thank you. Who said something? Betsy?
Dawn, I have a couple questions. Were you able to get hold of anybody at the hospital?
I was not, I think there might have been some confusion of who's the interim, and so the name I had may have not been correct until maybe yesterday, so I haven't. I will run that trap should it get to a third reading to make sure I speak to him. I did take you up on your request to talk to the school district, and I did speak to the superintendent.
Right, yeah, and I spoke with him afterwards, too.
Yes, ma'am.
So the facility in Berryville, is it an egg washing plant?
Yes.
Just like y'all are?
Similar. I would, again, why I say similar is because what this will be is the newest one. So, as any industry standard, you take the good and the bad and you try to make it better. So there are some things that are going to be different in this plant, but I think it would be similar for your reference.
So I had asked earlier if there was a facility nearby. Is this not a Hanson Brook Farm facility then?
No, but I believe it's one that operates similar. That would give you a good indication of how they operate.
Who owns this one?
Ashley Swaffer, Hanson Brook. So it is owned by one of our co-packers. They're called Mid-State Specialty Eggs. They have several different plants around. Okay. But that would be the most comparable. It's a pretty newer facility. The Summers facility was built in the 80s, so I don't think that's the best to show. But yeah, I think it would be comparable.
One last question, because actually somebody had commented on her political page, the eggs that do break, because eggs break, how are they disposed of?
So as she alluded to, the blue barrels, they're typically, because they zero landfill, so they don't go to the landfill. Typically we go to another facility, maybe for pet food, something similar of that nature.
Okay, so they're not going in the trash or anything?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
And if I may, on the opportunity zone, if you'd entertain me, if not, I can.
Go ahead.
So the federal opportunity zone was established in President Trump's first administration in 2016. They're due to sunset as it is today, December of 2026. So from my understanding of that, there was no city involvement. The federal government took the census tract data and targeted areas, and that's how they were produced. The goal was to spur economic development. And in my time, looking at them when I was here at the city, most communities were using for housing. And so because there were tax breaks there. So I think under the new, again, current administration, they want to push more manufacturing through those. And so I believe, forgive me, I didn't read the entire big, beautiful bill, but I think somewhere in there it speaks to that a little bit of the need for that and keeping jobs in this country and try to pursue that to be even more advantageous for people who are looking to expand. I think I was in a presentation today where they were talking about the next thing they're going to be pursuing that sets up well for this area's medical instrument producing. So understand some of the concerns, but as I alluded to before, on this south 11 acres, once this facility is built, absolutely, I can't stand here in front of you and say they will never go out of business. I think that would be foolish of myself. If it was, what I think would have to happen, because it's a built facility, it would have to be a similar use move into it because of lot coverages and also because of the way the building is built, they would have to extremely retrofit it. So if you look up and down the I-49 corridor, what you see is a lot of warehouses that are being built, spec warehousing, because warehousing is not available here. I would think this property, if it ever goes dark, would lend itself for that. Mr. Allen brought up a great point about the former Franklin Electric And the challenges we had even when I was here, the city working with that, is that the wall height was too short. So a lot of people wasn't interested for that warehouse use because of the stacking height wasn't allowable because they had 14-foot walls at the eaves. And so another reason why I feel like if this was not come to bear, I have no problem living 1,000 yards from it, because I think only a similar or like use would be able to go into the building if it's built at that point in time. Now, again, the concerns of I-1, we agree, we understand it. If we were to get I-1 zoning, again, that would allow us to start the project, and then hopefully through the pleasure of the Board of Adjustments and through the pleasure of the board, we can rezone it to I-2 at a later date. Thank you.
Don, when you say similar use of the building, how do you determine what is similar? I mean, some people look at one thing and
Yes, sir.
completely have a different idea.
Yes, sir. Great question. So in the 2040 comp plan, one of the things it said for economic viability, two industries that Siloam should chase is food packaging and advanced manufacturing. This will kind of tilt into that area. So I think, again, because of where we are located regionally and some of the things that are continuing to go with Walmart's expansion, I would think something along those lines of maybe warehousing, freezer type space for people to store stuff. I'm trying to think of a few off the top of my head, but there are a few food items that would probably fit that you typically buy off the
Didn't
shelf.
we have something come up on South Highway 16 at one point that was similar, or
Yes.
you were here? What was that?
That was a different company that was wanting to do something similar, I recall. I don't remember exactly, but I think it was very similar.
I thought it was some packaging or
Yes.
something
I
to do
think it
with
was-
eggs or something like that.
That's right. Yeah, I think it was Happy Egg or something to that nature. That project didn't go through.
See, to me, where that was first proposed would have been an ideal location, just because it's further from commercial and
Yes, sir.
residence, so, yeah.
And again, as I said, the last meeting, if time allowed, we could explore those opportunities. But with those machines on order from overseas, they're coming, and so that's the haste here. So, good question. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I have a question for Don while he was up here. Can you just clear up the confusion over the number of employees that could possibly be employed? 'Cause my understanding was about 50 at first, and then could go up to about 100, but it sounds like
That's
there's
correct.
some confusion.
So 50, the way this building will be built, it would be able to be expanded in the current footprint. So they will build the building at once, open up the first set of lines, which would be the first shift, which would be approximately 50 jobs. And if they were able to expand and open up a second shift, it would match that. So around 100. I say around 100 because there are a few people like Ms. Wofford who already lives in the community that may or may not be office there. I can't speak to that because the front of the building will have office space for staff. There are a few that, I know she lives here. There are a few employees that live across the state line right in Oklahoma, and there are a few up in the Gravette area as well.
So it's not for sure that there will be a second phase, or?
I feel like from talking to Mr. Stoner, the developer.
She has an answer back there.
Right, and I appreciate that. But with their contracts they have with Costco and some they're pursuing with Sam's Club, they probably will expand. I think those contracts are 10 to 12 years, so that kind of solidifies some of that business, and they can expand from there if they secure better contracts. And so, again, I'm not an egg aficionado, but from what I understand from the avian flu that we had, and we all saw the impacts trying to get eggs a few months ago, their particular operation sets up well to resist that because of the way they operate their birds. So I only see that growing as those needs come into the industry and industry changes. So Ashley, if you wanted to.
You want me to do my comment? Go ahead. Ashley Swaffer, 516 Rays Mill Road, Farmington, Arkansas. So I want to talk a little bit about our commitment at Hanson Brook to what we call the MOARC region, so Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma. So we're working with about 100 family farms in this area already. And we are giving long-term contracts to those folks who are building new chicken houses for us, and we're retrofitting some older things. And so giving pretty long-term contracts. So we are here. I have worked for Hansenbrook almost 7 years. A lot of people don't know that we're in this area. I've worked here 7 years. One of my other coworkers will be 7 years this fall. And then we've hired 2 more this year, one in Washington, one in Benton County, and then we'll probably look to bring on a couple more because this is our growth area. We are growing heavily here. And so a little bit about the jobs. So first shift, I envision 50 because we'll have support personnel, finance and things like that, logistics. And then when we expand to that second shift, going up to 100 there is where we'll be on that. And I really anticipate we'll get to that second shift pretty quick because this is such a huge area of growth for us and a concentration of chickens. So we are here. We are committed. A lot of people don't know we're here, but we have been operating in our first farm was in Westville, Oklahoma, 8 years ago. So we've been around. And I just want to point out an opportunity zone. You don't get tax incentives until after the 10th year. So that's the long-term commitment our company is making in opportunity zones, and we only, going forward, are only operating in opportunity zones. So we have a company-owned farm in Berryville and 2 in Bolivar, Missouri, and those are all in opportunity zones, and all of our plants that land we have purchased is all in opportunity zones. So thank you all.
That was my question, Ashley, is this company is an ongoing company. It's not brand new.
No, absolutely not. No.
Who are the owners of the company? Are any of them local?
Nope, they are not. It's, I laugh at this. They're Jordan and Finn. They're 2 guys. They are in New York City, actually.
Okay.
But have become very committed to chickens. So,
That was just a question I had. Thank you.
yep.
Mr. Mayor?
Anyone else, Betsy?
Yeah, this is related, not to y'all, so, to something Mr. Allen had said earlier, and I wondered if one of our attorneys could address the spot zoning, the legalities, the letter we were sent.
I'm so glad you asked that question. I'm Tom Kiklak. Mr. Vice Mayor and Board, I regret that you received a letter like that. I'm not hard to find. I mean, look at me. I'm hard to miss, really. Everybody out there knows what I do. I've known Larry a long time. Larry's a great lawyer and a great person. But why in the world would you send a represented party a letter that has your legal opinions in it and threats to appeal and such? If you ever receive a letter like that from an attorney, please just, call us, give it to, administrator and ignore it. Please don't ever respond to it, never react to it, and of course, never talk to each other about it. I wanted to get that. I was just in a seminar, we were all in Little Rock at AML last week, and I was in a seminar, not just about the FOI, but about attorney ethics, and I asked about, the expert up there, there's a rule 4.2, we do not contact as attorneys represented parties. We contact their lawyers. Everybody knows that. And it's sort of, maybe just me, but it chaps me that my clients get Freedom of Information Act requests that are really filled with sort of sometimes very, very, very acute threats. If you don't do this at this time, you're going to go, because it's criminal and civil penalties for violation of the FOI. Those should come to us, and I get it, but this is much more sort of direct, right? This is a lawyer sort of contacting all of y'all directly. And I'd appreciate it if lawyers like that would come through us when they're talking, because I'm sure I would never contact one of their clients at a lawyer, telling them what my legal opinion was and what they should do and how they should act and what might happen if they don't, without going through an attorney first. So so glad you gave me the opportunity to get that out. You can ask Heather, I was just saying, I really want to talk about this, should I? And she's like, yeah. You know, so if they ask you, fine, but, you know, so she's right, but anyway. But spot zoning, and I would certainly defer, you guys have got such a great staff in planning and educated, but spot zoning is very, very rarely found, often discussed and rarely found. And the kind of work that staff's already done, you know, talking about, all their memos talk about adjustments into the master plan, the land use plan, whatever you want to call it, the, you know, whatever, sometimes we name them by years, 2040 plan. That would certainly be adjusted because those things are always changing. But, you know, I don't see spot zoning anywhere tonight in any of the ordinances that y'all have said. And if it were, your staff would advise you immediately if that were the case.
So this wouldn't be considered spot zoning, and there wouldn't be a potential for a lawsuit because of that?
Oh, you can sue
I mean,
all the
there's
time, yeah.
somebody can always sue for
Yeah.
anything. I
But,
mean,
they may speak much more eloquently than I, but no, it's not. There's no.
okay, thank you.
And really, I think the person who mentioned it was really talking about contract zoning. There's a thing called contract zoning also, you know, where you zone for, in exchange for kind of benefit, financial benefit sometimes. And the Supreme Court in Arkansas has discussed that, but they've actually said, we've never seen it, but we might not like it if we see it, but we've never seen it. And it's, those kinds of things are just very rare, spot zoning and contract zoning.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate your comments, Tom.
Sure.
Because as I saw the letter, I thought the fact that anybody can do a FOIA request of that doesn't lend itself well to public knowledge. It's just, you know, everything's public, you know, when it comes to a city government, state government, federal government, it has to be. So, yeah, I was a little surprised to get a 4-page letter. I want to also state that it's my understanding the Planning Commission voted to deny this, and that even though our planning staff has said they will not make a recommendation, they said they cannot support based upon the land use. That was my understanding from the last meeting. Is there any other comments? Anybody in the public? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Pardon? Oh, okay. Miss Diane.
Diana Horton, 23063 Siloam Springs. First of all, I want to say, Mindy, thank you, because I learned some more stuff tonight I did not know, and so I appreciate that. Also, I want to say, as a daughter of a chicken farmer for 50 years and a daughter-in-law of a father-in-law that raised eggs in Lincoln and raised layers. And I have done those jobs that this lady has done. I have done, poop off of the eggs. And sometimes they come off and sometimes they don't. Now, several years ago, this has been several years ago, there was a lot of poop. Those birds don't wipe themselves. But I just want, that is a very concern, because even though, and they may have came a long way since then, I don't know. But I just wanted to make that statement. I do know what they go through, and when they go to the trucks and they're enclosed, I do know most of the eggs are not real clean. Thank you.
Thank you. The other comment I wanted to make was based upon the comments from the company. Of course, the company is going to say it doesn't smell and there's no noise. But as Ashley said, I don't think it smells. Well, people who work in something every day grow used to a smell. I can attest to the smell of chemicals used to take the peeling off potatoes. So I know you get used to certain things when you work around them every day. And that's just the nature of the business. So someone that is around something that does have a smell to a layman that's never been around it before is going to say, yeah, I don't smell anything. But someone who's new or someone driving down the highway and has never smelt it is certainly going to have a different opinion. Is there any other public comments?
Rebecca Wyatt, 1109 East Jewel Street, Vice Mayor and Board of Directors. Get that title right. I wanted to say first off, Lisa Risler put out a post on her Siloam Springs Citizens page. So if you would like to make a comment on this topic, it would be nice if you could look at that and post a comment. There's a lot of information in the different comments on that post. This company has stated that they ordered equipment before having their site settled, and that this is the only piece of property that is site-ready in our opportunity zone. They said they are also considering Springfield, Missouri. I understand in business, the practice of getting two locations involved and seeing who will give you the best deal is a common practice. I realize this company would like to make the most profit they can off their venture, but I was wondering if they would consider a piece of property that is already zoned industrial, as the proposed site is surrounded by a mix of commercial, agricultural, and residential zoning, and is very close to our hospital and high school. This is the big elephant in the room. I have seen deals fall through, and we've already seen one fall through on this property before. And if this is rezoned industrial and the property is resold, so that means if they buy the property and somehow they decide to not keep the property and it's resold, the industrial zoning will stand and the city will not have any say-so in what goes into this spot next time. So this is a big problem because it's kind of our shopping area and commercial, and we would love to see this company come into our town. It sounds like a really nice company, but we really would like it to go where industrial should go and not right there in the middle. You know, it's real close to Ravenwood, that community, and I just can't hardly see how the smell isn't going to impact things. People are having a lot of problems. A lot of comments are being made to me and other people like her post that it's just right next to the high school. We have a lot of young drivers coming back and forth, and there's going to be a lot of semis from this company. They're saying up to 14, I think, a day coming, in and out. That would be 14 going in, 14 coming out after they leave. So there's just more traffic. People are concerned about that. And I was just wondering if they would, I just respectfully ask, would this company consider getting a piece of property in our zone, our opportunity zone, and maybe you wouldn't be making as much money. I know the comment keeps coming up that you've got equipment that's ordered. It's got to be here in February. You got to have someplace to put it. But if you got another piece of property, could you at least maybe put it on that until you get done? Everybody's comments that I'm reading and people are talking about is they just feel like if somebody's going to threaten us that we're going to they're going to move to Springfield, Missouri if they don't get this property right now. They get upset about it. They don't feel like you're being a good neighbor, and they don't know you because you don't live in this area. But I think your business would be really nice to have, and the jobs would be really nice for people. And I think I'm going over my time. Sorry about that. And so I just would like you to think about that, because we would like to have the jobs, and if you would consider that. Thank you so much. Thank you, Vice Mayor and Board of Directors.
Thank you, Rebecca. Anyone else?
So thank you for your comments. And so I want to be very clear, we're not threatening. It's just a nature of business. If it's not approved here, it's going to go to Springfield. They got 2 pieces of properties on the contract. The need for this facility is because those co-packers they work with are maxed out, which is why they need to expand and have their own facility and not rely on those co-packers. For other property and opportunity zone, I think there are currently 10 is listed, but if you say 11 counting this one, but right now it's not on the market, you know, it was just through understanding what was available that this one was pursued. 2 or 10 acres, which meets our requirements. One being in the front of the school, which is directly in front of the school. One being far from utilities. Again, as I stated, this is the highest and best use we feel for this property because of where it's located. I understand the concerns with the truck traffic and school traffic. I live in the area. In Ravenwood, I drive by this area, which is why we wanted to make sure we spoke to the school district and make sure they understood what was coming and address any concerns that they may or may not have. So I just wanted to speak that into record that there are 10 listed. 2 are at 10 acres, which is what we need. 1 is in front of the school, which I think you are aware of. And then 1 is currently, I think, a mile from any sewer main that we could discharge into. Thank you.
Anyone else? I will entertain a motion to put ordinance 2522 on its second reading, suspending the rules and reading title only. I guess I've been forgetting to say that part, suspending the rules and reading title only. Well, I said it this time.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Vice Mayor,
Yes.
I'm curious if the board's interested in entertaining a second and third reading this evening.
I will ask for the roll call.
Carroll.
Yes.
Blair.
No.
Barnes.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
No.
Allen.
No. Oh. Motion passed. Christina?
Sorry, was that 3 to 4? It did pass? Okay.
4 to 3.
That wasn't for both readings. It didn't get a second.
That was the second reading only. We had a motion for the second reading.
Just checking. I just
Yep,
wasn't
yep.
sure if that was enough for me to not read.
We didn't have a second on his request for a second and third.
That's right. With only 4 votes, you have to read the entire motion.
Hold on, I was confused because we didn't have a motion to do the second and third. I thought we were voting on having the second and third together.
There was no motion.
Right, I missed that, it didn't connect in my brain. I would have voted yes. May I change my vote? And then you don't have to read it.
Changes to 5 to 2.
6 votes, right?
What's that?
6 votes.
Oh, yeah, I'm still counting. Well, no, we have 7 board members.
So it was 5 to 2.
Of the whole.
Pardon?
It's 2/3 of the whole.
No, the mayor doesn't count. The mayor doesn't have a vote.
Well, that means it's just an absent member.
Oh, they-
No, 2/3 of 7
It's a
is
team.
5.
You're saying by not being in your chair, that's a,
You
sometimes
understand that
different than
as
absent.
mayor, the mayor, Judy Nation, does not have a vote. As vice mayor, I do have a vote. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 board members here.
7.
And Betsy changed her vote to yes, so that's 5-2.
Gotcha. Two-thirds.
Ordinance number 25-22, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, city zoning map, rezoning from PD to I-1, property located at the 500 block of North Progress Avenue.
Thank you, Christina. Next agenda item is ordinance number 2523, second reading of amending section 102-21 of City Municipal Code, rezoning from PD to C2 at the 600 block of North Progress Avenue. Megan Thomas, please.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Megan Thomas, current planner. This is the second reading for a rezoning request located at the 600 block of North Progress Avenue. As a reminder, the applicant is requesting to rezone the northern portion of Lot 1 of the reserve subdivision consisting of 18.4 acres from PD Plan Development to C2 Roadway Commercial. The applicant is also requesting to amend the future land use designation for the northern portion of the property from mixed-use centers to regional commercial to allow for large offices and shops. There have been no changes since the previous reading, and staff is available for any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Is there any discussion, questions, or comments from the board?
Mr. Vice Mayor,
Yes.
is this still relevant? I guess I've got a question for Mr. Clark or the holders there. Is this even relevant since we didn't do a second and third? Or is it still relevant on the C2?
Don Clark, owner's rep, yes, as long as the previous is going to his third reading, this is running concurrent, so at this time, yes.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That's what I would have said. Thank you, Don. Any other comments or questions? Any comments or questions from the public?
Don Clark, again, I just want to point out, where we do have some anomalies here. So to rezone this C2, it would also require a change of the future land use map. And so I just want to point that out, just like with the I-2, because it's currently zone PD, it would have to be adjusted, that map. And previously, before it was zone PD, when it was zone PD, that map had to be amended. So it's been amended before and will have to be done the same. Likewise, should this continue to move forward, I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Ben or Chris, what does the 2040 comprehensive plan have for this east side of Progress?
It's currently mixed use.
Mixed use, but not including industrial.
That is,
It's commercial and residential.
I don't believe our definition includes industrial. That's correct.
Thank you. Is there any other comments from the public? Questions or comments? I will ask for a motion to put the ordinance 2523 on its second reading, amending section 102 of the City Municipal Code on its second reading, suspending the rules and reading title only.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Blair.
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-23, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, city zoning map, rezoning from PD to C2, property located at the 600 block of North Progress Avenue.
Thank you, Christina. Next agenda items, letter I, ordinance 2524, the second reading of a vacation of utility and drainage easement at the 407 and 505 Buffalo Gap Drive address. Megan?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Megan Thomas, current planner. This is the second reading of an easement vacation request located at 407 and 505 Buffalo Gap Drive. As a reminder, the applicant is requesting to vacate utility and drainage easements on Lot 5, Phase 2, and Lot 18, Block 5 of the Stonecrest subdivision. There have been no changes made since the previous reading, and staff is available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Any questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the public? Then we will ask for a motion to approve or put ordinance 2524 on its second reading, suspending the rules and reading title only.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Barnes?
Yes.
Wiles?
Yes.
Hunt?
Yes.
Rissler? Yes. Allen?
Yes.
Carroll?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Ordinance number 25-24, an ordinance vacating and abandoning utility easements at 407 and 505 Buffalo Gap Drive.
Thank you, Christina. Ordinance 2525, letter J is our next agenda item. First reading of amending the city municipal code, repealing the city's planning area boundary. And Ben, you're up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the board. Ben Rhodes, Senior Planner. So many of you are aware, but in case they're not, the 95th Arkansas General Assembly voted on a bill that was signed by law by Governor Sanders as Act 314. That act does strip cities with the authority for subdivision jurisdiction within the 1 mile extraterritorial jurisdiction. That's also referred as the planning area boundary, as many of you are familiar with. So in terms of this Act 314, the repeal prohibits subdivision reviews, which is basically the preliminary and final plats in the planning area, and also limits the cities to reserve right-of-ways and things like that within those subdivisions if they were going through. The act goes into effect 90 days after the signature, which effectively is around August 4th. So cities need to, on all Arkansas, not just Siloam Springs, but need to update their ordinances to reflect the state law that's in effect. And so what we're looking at is the bullets on the left-hand side there of amending those chapters of the code, and basically just striking out the planning area boundary. The Unified Development Code will be affected by this, but is being updated so that it's going to reflect whatever, if this ordinance is approved. And then lastly, the Planning Commission did review this and recommends approval. With that, we're available for any of your questions. Thank you.
Ben, is there any comments or questions from the board? Any comments or questions from the public? I will entertain a motion to place ordinance 2525 on its first reading, suspending the rules and reading title only.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Wiles?
Yes.
Hunt?
Yes.
Rissler?
Yes.
Allen?
Yes.
Carroll?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Burns?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Ordinance number 25-25, an ordinance amending section 54-11 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code and repealing the city planning area boundary to conform to state law requirements and declaring an emergency.
So do we need all three readings if it's an emergency? That was my question. I was going to ask Ben, is there a deadline with the state we have to have this?
If we do 3 readings like normal, we just needed to go into effect at the 3rd reading, which is hence the emergency clause. So if it goes in effect by the meeting in August, the August meeting, then it'll be fine. So.
Thank you, Ben. That answers that. Next agenda item is resolution, letter K, Resolution 2625, purchase of the old post office. Phat Tire. Christina will brief us.
So this resolution is for the board to make a determination on your right of first refusal on the sale of Phat Tire. So the appraisal, which we've requested, won't be ready until July 9th. So you're welcome to refuse the purchase, accept the purchase if it's within a range. I think I arbitrarily picked 90% of the appraisal value. You can include that, ignore that, change that number. Or if you want, you can wait until the appraisal is received and have a special called meeting. But a written response is due on July 11th.
Thank you, Christina. Is there any discussion or questions from the board?
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yes. Thank you.
When this was originally done, I don't remember what year that was, but I was on the board for my first stint back then. I was totally against selling that. I just thought it would be best if the city had kept ownership. And I still feel that way. I think that we need to get this back, and I've got various reasons for that, but I think one of the biggest ones, when you look at other cities and their city hall, their administrative offices, as you go through Fayetteville and some of these others, they are outgrowing their buildings. And it's just, which we are here as well. Space is, I think, always going to be at a premium. And I think it would be good and in our best interest and to have these ancillary buildings as close together as can be to serve the needs of the citizens and to take care of daily operations. So I say all that to say I would be very much in favor of getting this back. I know it's a lot of money. I know we're faced with numerous other projects, but as we all know, real estate, whether it's raw land or buildings, are scarce. And I just think for our future, it would be something worthwhile. Thanks.
Thank you, Ken. Anyone else? Yes, please.
In that building, there's a painting that's protected by the federal government. Can you tell us, I guess I'm curious because anybody that purchases it is limited to what they can do with the building, with that, because of that painting. How does that affect the property value?
Sure,
And
there is a deed restriction, but I'm not sure how much that impacts the property.
Do we know what the deed, and it's only because of that painting?
Correct.
Can you explain that so the public knows what we're talking about?
I believe there's a protected mural in the building which cannot be removed or painted over or anything.
Touched in any way?
Touched in any
It has to
way.
be cleaned by a specialist.
Correct.
It has to be maintained, and there's actually huge fines. And even prison time, wasn't there discussed that if you do something to this painting?
Actually was not part of those conversations.
Oh, okay,
Sorry.
okay.
She is looking it up, though,
Okay.
as we speak.
And so we can't remove it. We can't preserve that by removing it. Because I think we discussed maybe removing it to the library. But I don't even think you can cut it out.
Right, I believe that was the response that we got, was that it could not be removed from the building.
I agree with Director Walls that I'd like the city to own that building, but I'd like to know the property value. I don't want to just say, yeah, we're going to buy a building, and I want to see what the property value, what the assessment is, how it's affected by these regulations, by the federal government, and let the public know this is how it affects, the whole picture.
Anyone
Vice
else?
Mayor?
Yes. Brad.
Director Rissler, yeah, I remember those conversations, and in fact, for Phat Tire to put any lettering on it, had to go through the Historical Society down at the Capitol to be approved. And that painting that is, as you come in, also the postmaster's office has to be preserved, and the painting has to be preserved. And yeah, it's a historical building we have sold and bought numerous times when I was a city employee. And I spoke of this before because Carl Munger wanted to know how I got it, but we had a city auction and some firemen bought the 48 Start flag out of there. And it was at Firehouse, given to me at Firehouse 2 for many years. And it is presently hanging in a wall with several other flags. And I'm kind of with Director Wiles. I would like to get the building back. I remember the debates we've had from the museum, just the history that we've had with that building. And if we acted now, we might be able to get it at a cheaper price. The appraisal may be higher. I guess it's going to be a gamble which way we go on that, but we've had it, and I don't know what that would make. 2 times or 3 times of buying and selling it if we chose that, I don't know. Interesting. Thank you.
Will recognize myself. I know just a smidge about the history of this building. I was on the board when Mark Latham, our city administrator at the time, worked diligently with the federal government to have this building donated to the city with the requirement that the mural, which was one of many done by the federal government across the entire United States in their small town post offices by a specific artist. And part of the contract was that it would never be sold, moved, hurt, whatever. And that was, of course, violated in the early 2000s. I got off the board in 2002 and was really surprised to hear that the board had voted to sell it to help socially engineer a restaurant downtown. We didn't have any restaurant downtown, so they were going to sell it to someone who was going to do that. For $100,000, they sold a building. They didn't need the money, but this was what they wanted to do. And there was some people who voted against it on the board and some who voted for it. And the gentleman who bought it, we had a contract written, I believe, by Jay Williams, the attorney at the time, that said if it did not move forward for its intended purpose, there was a clawback provision that allowed the city to take it back. And when I learned the city had done this and that the owner had ended his plan to put a restaurant and in fact had mortgaged it to Arvest for $400,000. And then the bank took it back. But before all that occurred, I asked Jay Williams why we did not initiate our clawback provision. He said he just didn't want to do it. Arvest ended up selling it at auction. They put it up for auction. And I was mayor at the time when we voted to allow David Cameron to go up to $210,000. And everyone on the board supported that and voted for that. As I explained, we had already sold it for $100,000. So buying it back for $210,000, it would really only cost the citizens $110,000. And the only board member who could not understand that was John Turner, and he voted no. Everyone else voted yes. And he was then quoted as saying that it was an ugly old building that should be torn down. It's one of the few historic buildings we have in Siloam Springs. And it floored me that it got sold again. We worked so hard to get it. We had a big, beautifully painted sign saying future home of Siloam Springs Museum. That's what it was purchased back for. Although at the time it wasn't sure. We offered it to the Parks Department. They didn't want it. We thought about the library. They didn't want it. So we decided to put the museum there. And David Cameron had estimated the remodel would be around 300 with city employees helping, $300,000. And Matt Pearson was put in charge of getting the estimate, and it came in at $750,000. And the board balked and said, oh, we can't put that kind of money out, and it was voted down. So it sat there for years doing nothing, but with the plan that possibly someday it would be taken on as a project. Matt later said that he believed that he probably got too high of an estimate from the people he had talked to. But it was later when Mr. Patterson was hired, and I had said hello but never really talked to him, and I was in the checkout line at Lowe's. And I had seen the front page of the paper that said the city was selling the building to Phat Tire. And so he was in the checkout and I was in checkout, and I said, what's going on here? And he was so excited. We're getting a Phat Tire, and every city in North Ozarks has a Phat Tire. I'd never heard of a Phat Tire bike shop. I thought he meant a beer company. And he said, no, a bike shop. It's the big bike shop that everybody has. And now we're going to have one. And he was excited. What I didn't understand was how the city could back, again, socially engineering a competing bike shop against a local owner bike shop downtown. And that's what they did. The proposed contract in 2018 was a lease to own. And the monthly lease payments were 1/10 of market rent. At the time, I talked to some employees of some of the shell companies that were eventually found out to be owned by Sam Walton's grandsons. And nobody really knew that. It was kept quiet. But 1/10 of market rent for leasing with a lease to own that was initiated at $260,000. $260,000 that occurred, I believe they initiated it in 2020. And 3 board members, I think Mindy, Reed, and Brad all voted for that. And now they wish to sell it for a $600,000 profit in 5 years, because they're not going to keep the Phat Tire bike shop. I don't know why, but they've chosen not to keep it. But again, allowing the city administrator to socially engineer bringing in a competing bike shop, of which no one with Phat Tire was a local businessman or local owner, but there already was a locally owned bike shop. Before it occurred, we ended up getting it for $205,000 instead of $210,000. David Cameron got it. We got a state grant for $35,000 to fix the roof. And part of the disinformation that was spread to the board at the time of pushing to sell it was that it had a leaky roof and a basement that filled up with water. Couldn't have been further from the truth. All you had to do was talk to the guy who ran the place the last time it was in operation, Carl Munger. He was the postmaster. He'd worked there forever. That place never flooded, but that's what was told to the board. We need to get out of this building. Very sad that it has now come back to nearly 3 times the sale price. Well, over 3 times. It's ridiculous, really. 260,000 to, what is it, 850? It's nearly $600,000 profit that if they sold it, they would get. I wish that we could make an offer, a counter offer, with the goodwill that has been developed with the Walton Family Foundation, in that our city has provided the property for WOCA. We've provided the additional land that the family wanted for the preservation around it. We've sold it reluctantly, but we did do it. And I wish there was a way that we could make a counteroffer to buy this back for the price that was paid to the city, plus any verifiable remodel costs that Phat Tire put into it. That would be, I think, the ideal option to take it, to get it back in the city's ownership. Just an idea, though. Anybody else? Pardon? Betsy? Did you have something?
It would be nice to own it again. I think the price, I don't know, especially considering what we sold it to them for, is rather high. I don't think at this point we can afford it, but I would like to see what it appraises for and take it from there.
Vice Mayor?
Yes.
I'm aware of the history, and man, I was a big supporter of Phat Tire. I'm a big supporter of outdoor CBR, and I'm a big supporter of outdoor activity. I think it's an economical driver. Having said that, it would be interesting if we could make a proposal. I know it's not written here, but is there any way that we can make a proposal as recommended by the Vice Mayor and just see if we get a bite? I mean, it doesn't hurt while we're waiting on the other. I would second that.
I like that idea as well.
Then I will make it a motion that we make a counteroffer of the purchase price or the sell price, plus any verifiable remodel costs that they put into it. Should be probably a cap on that.
Well, Mr. Vice Mayor, at this
Yes.
point, I don't know that we're there yet. Right now, under the contract, there's a right of first refusal,
Right.
meaning the people who bought it from you and opened Phat Tire can't offer the building for sale to anyone else for 30 days. You have 30 days to either accept or exercise your right of first refusal or not. I think first step is to let them know that you're not going to exercise your right at this point to purchase.
Not at that price.
At
Yeah,
that price.
yeah.
At that point, I believe they have the opportunity to open the sale to other offers. At that point, I think you could make a counteroffer, but first you gotta let them know that you're not gonna accept or exercise the right at this point for that price that they've asked for.
I don't think we want to say that we're not interested until we get that appraisal back on the 9th.
So
Right.
would you like to set a?
Is that the date you said?
That
you
is
think?
the date they have confirmed they will
We
have
got
it
the
to us
letter
by the
on
9th.
June 12th, so do we not we have 30 days from June 12th?
Correct.
Under the terms of the contract, if you tell them you're going to exercise your right, you're accepting
Oh, yeah.
their purchase price of $849, and I don't know, and that would be binding, so just be careful how you're approaching that.
I don't think anybody thinks that thing is worth that.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yes.
I mean, I agree. I think if, depending on, you know, what council says and how we can word this, first thing was we need to get the appraisal.
Yep.
I mean, if we, like she was saying, I mean, the minute we say, yeah, we want it, but not for that, there might be somebody who says, oh, yeah, I'll give you that for it, and then we're out in the dark. So if we can, however it needs to be worded, you know, pending appraisal or whatever.
There's no
That'd be a little-
response required in writing until the 11th.
Okay, so we can get the
So we can get
appraisal
the
and-
appraisal. If you guys would like, we can call a special called meeting, and then you can decide based on the appraisal whether or not you want to
Make a counter.
make, well, not make a counter, but either accept or refuse the purchase that
I
they're offering.
believe, even though the contract says we are given first right of refusal, I believe we have the opportunity to simply say, we're not turning down the first right of refusal, we're simply saying it would be an automatic yes if the counter proposal was this. I'm just saying, I mean, maybe a real estate agent should, hey, Reed, aren't you? I'm just saying there may be, but then again, we've got the attorneys here that look at the contract itself. And so I just don't know why it would not hurt. And I'm only saying this because the true owners, there is a relationship already with the city on what has been done. So I know it's not something that we could just come right out and say that, but I'm just saying it doesn't hurt. It never hurts to, who somebody said put out a fishing line or something? I don't know.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yes, Mindy.
What I'm understanding is we need to get the appraisal back.
Yeah.
We don't need to say anything until we meet and get that appraisal, which is on the 9th, so we could have a special call meeting on the 9th or the 10th. And then
Just
that's
the
going to give
price
us a
that's there
better
now
idea
is just
of
so
even.
high is why I.
Well, right,
yeah.
and that's going to give us a better idea of even what it's worth, and we can
Did the
go from
price they
there.
quote come from an appraisal that they got?
I
Or did
believe, yes.
they-
Because when the appraiser contacted them, they were very firm that any appraisal is not for negotiation. It is just simply.
sell it at the what they got appraised?
Yes,
Yeah.
because they've had it appraised.
Okay. So we're going to get our own appraisal. Okay.
But, and we do have a history here, so we have.
Everything's
some
always
bargaining
open for negotiation, but until we get that number back, we really can't make a decision. So this resolution is really kind of null and void for now.
Yes, I'm just putting it before you so
Yeah,
that you know
yeah,
it has to be addressed before the next board meeting.
Yeah. Thank you, Christine. It's funny because the next board meeting is only 3 or 4 days later. I mean, past the deadline.
Past the
Yeah,
deadline,
yeah.
yes.
Any other comments or questions? Any comments or questions from the public?
Hello, Mark Miller, 22587 Westwood Drive, Siloam Springs, Arkansas. Vice Mayor, you've actually answered a lot of the questions I had. I have 3 questions and a statement. One was this vote today to accept that contract, which what I'm understanding is you're going to table it or something, so that won't happen. The second thing was, does the city have a plan for this building? Other than, because we can spend close to $1 million on a lot of projects in Siloam Springs, okay? One thing I would add to your numbers, I came with all the numbers, you're right. 2018, it was rented. 2020, it closed, $260,000. The only thing you left out is we spent, I can't remember if it was $180,000 or $280,000 remediating it before we sold it to them for $260,000.
No, we did not. No, we did not.
What did we spend on remediation?
I don't know where you get that number. I've heard that before, but I've never.
We had to pull all the
You're talking about
asbestos.
remodeling?
No. We had to pull all the asbestos out of it before we could sell it.
But it didn't cost that.
It was like $180,000. I don't know, we'd have to look into the record. Anyway, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, in 2020, I stood here and I asked you to not go through with that contract. In fact, I stood here with my checkbook saying, I'll pay you $50,000 over what they're offering, because we wanted to put a restaurant in it. Now, at this price, it's obviously way out of my price range. But I just would like to say that I'd love to get it back into the city, but it's way overpriced. Yes, if we can't, if we're gonna be buying stuff high and selling it low, we have a fiduciary duty to do a better job. Please look into it. If we can get it at a reasonable price, I'm all for it. But at this price, it's just 4 times what they paid for it is ridiculous over 5 years. Thank you.
And what I think was evaluated at the time on the price that you're referring to, $260,000, was it was old comps.
Yes.
It was not appropriately appraised.
Yes, it was comps from, I think, 2 years prior, the 2018. And it was like $50 a square foot. It was cheap. You know, even in those days, commercial property was $100 a square foot.
And
Any
it
questions?
included a nonprofit in the,
I'm sorry?
there was a nonprofit included in the comps.
Oh, okay, okay.
I think there's been a lot of ill-conceived decisions made regarding buildings given away, which is reminiscent of giving away flower pots, which cost a man his job. You don't give away an entire building.
No.
And that has been done.
Yeah. It should have been turned over to a real estate agent and let them market it and see what you could have gotten for it. I was told at that meeting, the current Jay Williams, the previous attorney, he said, well, we've put out notices. I went back and researched it. Yeah, for a half-inch line in the Democrat Gazette, listed with a number of dump trucks and other stuff we had for sale.
Because
So
it was already decided where it was going.
it was already, we knew where it was going, you know? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Anybody else?
My name's Gayleen Ellis. I have Legacy Jewelry on 610 South Mount Olive here in town. I just want to know, if we're going to buy this, what are we going to do with it, like Mark asked, and where's the money going to come from? Our sewer is failing. We can't afford to build a new police department for our PD that is outgrowing itself. Where is this money coming from? You guys, everybody has spent. There's no money to be buying a building that we don't know what we're going to do with. Are we going to house the homeless in it? Because obviously that's okay just to have them laying around. I mean, I want some answers. I know everybody else does, but nobody can seem to give us a straight answer or a resolution to any of this. But we want to buy a building that we cannot afford because our sewer's failing, our roads are crap. Take a drive down Hyco, Oakcrest. I mean, I lived off Don Hill. I got beer bottles thrown at me when I was mowing the yard. And what have you guys done?
I have
It is
griped
4
about
years
those
later.
two streets for 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, 5 years later, here we are.
Yep.
Nothing has been done, but we're going to buy a building. That makes absolutely 0 sense as a taxpayer of this community, as an owner of a business in this community. Absolutely 0 cents. And I don't care what the appraisal brings. You guys sold it too low. They're asking a butt ton of money for it. I mean, I'm trying to keep my composure and not just completely blow up here. Because I see stupid crap done in this community. We give money for downtown for what? Girls' night out? What does that do for the rest of us businesses? We stand around and watch you guys try to do something to downtown and it's dying. Because, oh, let's put more crap on 412. I mean, you're killing downtown, and I'm part of that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? What, should we have a motion then to table this, Christina?
That would be fine if you want to table it, or if you just want to, I don't know, do they have to table it?
I think we
just
have
a
to,
s-
because the resolution is a
We'll have it on
purchase.
the agenda later, then you would
Yes.
you would table it.
So you can table it to a special called meeting on the 9th or the 10th.
Or table it indefinitely until we decide to take it up again.
Correct.
Do I hear a motion to table Resolution 2625 indefinitely?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, roll call.
Hunt?
Pardon?
Yes.
Dressler? I really don't know what I'm voting here. I want clarity before I send you.
This is a motion to table Resolution 2625, which is a purchase of the old post office.
I
And
get
it,
what we're doing. I'm saying when we do it indefinitely, is that the answer to them? Or is that, do they not get an answer at that point?
I believe the direction I received was to provide you with the appraisal when it arrives. So then you guys would have to make a decision
At that point?
at that point.
So this isn't saying that we're not going to have the conversation.
indefinitely means until we decide to pick it back up,
Okay, I
which
think
could be
indefinite means
special meeting.
never.
That's what tabling indefinitely has always been.
You can call it that. You can set a time if you want to. When you table something, it means it sits on the table. And there is a place on most agendas called the table when you need it.
Right.
And
The
it
fact
sits
is,
there.
we don't know the time that we'll be able to then pick it back up. So
It sits
tabling
there.
indefinitely leaves it until the next time we have a special meeting and pick it up.
Could we say table until we get the appraisal?
No, tabling indefinitely is Robert's Rules of Order, and that's what we've done in the past.
Okay, I just needed clarity. So yes.
Moved and seconded, there was in the middle of a roll call. Can you start over roll call? I'm sorry.
Hunt?
Yes, again.
Dressler? Yes. Allen?
Yes.
Carroll?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Burns?
Yes.
Wiles?
Yes.
Motion passed. Next agenda item is our administrator's report. Christina?
Expenditures in excess of $30,000 include $30,899.40 for fire department extrication equipment and $37,005.37 for annual service fee related to citywide radios. There are no expenditures per Resolution 11-25. So as a reminder, fireworks are allowed from July 2nd to July 4th between noon and 10 p.m. each day. The city's having a block party again this year. This will be our second annual 4th of July block party. The country artist Tyler Kinch will be headlining that for us. That will again occur on Sioux England Drive near the rodeo grounds, and the celebration will be emceed by Arkansas State Senator Tyler Dees, and there will be live music, food trucks, yard games, face painting, etc. So we would also like to extend a thank you for staff working the 4th of July block party. Employees and volunteers include Segan Morrow, James Harris, Joey Hunter, Trent Butter, Travis Cheney, Megan Whitworth, Tanner Fishinghawk, Adam Kramer, Mark Stokes, William Beeks, Cynthia Botts, Ryan Burnett, Shane Duncan, and Jesse Burke. Also, the city's offices will be closed July 4th, except for emergency services, which will remain in operation. I have a little bit of good news. The Federal Department of Transportation finally got back with me with regard to the RAISE grant. We have a Teams meeting scheduled for next week wherein they'll share the changes that they are recommending to the document, and I'll provide a further update after that meeting. So, I also would like to just remind you that my assessment of the Headworks project financing was emailed to the board with the recommendation basically that we wait to see if the grant that we are applying for is granted. That's all I have for this evening.
Thank you, Christina. Next agenda item is director's reports, and start with you and go around and I'll end it. Go ahead, Lisa. Counterclockwise.
Happy 4th of July to everybody. I hope everybody's able to attend the event, the city event. I want to remind everybody, on July 14th, we will be having Constitution Camp. The MC is Tyler Dees. The special guests are Randy Torres, Robin Lundstrom, and Clint Penzo. And Tyler will also be speaking at the Constitution Camp. We will be voting on Siloam Springs' favorite candy. So if you have a suggestion and you want to have a say on the candy, you need to have your children or grandchildren vote for the candy you want. So that's it.
Betsy.
I don't think I have anything tonight other than please be careful, 4th of July. Be careful, keep your pets in and safe. And there is a time restriction, so remember fireworks stop at 10 o'clock, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Nothing tonight.
I'll just say thank you to those who fight for our freedom, and happy 4th of July.
Brad?
I'm going to be as quick as possible. Curious about the contract status for the city administrator. Our thoughts are when we're going to start the process for the hiring platform. I am interested in going to the Berryville site, so I don't know if that's done individually or if there's a group of us that might be interested in that. I have no clue. If not, I will contact Mr. Clark and head up that way at their earliest convenience. I would encourage my fellow board members to continue this conversation about the community building, not partial upgrades, complete upgrades, and Sager Creek with the quality of life funds coming available. I will say AML was very good conference to attend this year, dealing with some of the issues we have right now with land use and what is coming up in 2026. And hope it looks very promising for us as a community. I will summarize or paraphrase a quote from that. A city's future is determined by hundreds of actions taken daily by thousands of people based on what they believe about a city's future and their role in it. I thought that was an interesting statement. And July 4th, we'll let freedom ring. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Hello, summer. We're here. Took a moment, it feels like. Last Friday, we had Fourth Friday, and I was there till the bitter, whatever you want to call it. I was drenched as far as I could get. I couldn't get any wetter. But there were a few that stayed even longer than I did, but it was a good time. I enjoyed it. And we get to celebrate again this Friday for July 4th. Looking forward to it. Thank you to the city employees who are going to take their time and make it enjoyable for the rest of us. And thank you for first responders who will be available should there be any need. I also have an interest in going to Berryville if that opportunity arises. Thank you.
Thank you, Reed. I want to extend congratulations, sad congratulations to Arthur Holbert for his future retirement from the city or the Chamber of Commerce. I think he's really taken it to the next level, and they will be hard-pressed to find someone of his caliber. I also want to give congratulations to New Life Church, who had their member opening this past Sunday for their new 24,000 square foot church, which has been a major undertaking on their part. The amount of millions that it has cost and that they have raised, it is a beautiful building. I want to say happy Independence Day. So many people say July the 4th. It's actually Independence Day. It's the independence of the United States from the stranglehold of King George in Great Britain. And I also want to say thank you to the first responders who are always vigilant and working throughout the holiday and keeping people safe. And then lastly, I will say that for most of my life, I've had a pet peeve of conflict of interest. And I've had it in all 3 terms of my service on this city board. And I am no longer going to keep my mouth shut if I see contracts from this city going to family members of city board members. Just wanted to say it. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.